Welcome, everyone, to the very first brand new ILCMA Local Gov Stories podcast. I'm Melanie Santos Stefano, one of your hosts from Vicarious Multimedia. And we wanted to let you know that this podcast was designed to cast a spotlight on the diverse, dynamic, exciting, and varied world of local government, and how local government and the individuals in this fine profession are affecting daily lives every day across our state.
And I'm Jim Moran, also your local Gov Stories host, and I'm the communications manager for the Village of Antioch. And on a monthly basis, we'll be telling the story of local government through 5 pillars. The first being through enrichment opportunities available at conferences, as well as educational and social events and gatherings to grow in your career and make real connections with your peers. The second pillar will be how individuals entered the profession, either through internships after college or from the private sector. Will tell those stories. We'll also be showcasing a day in the life where we interview individuals from all over the state of Illinois who work in our profession, and we'll learn how they approach the work, and they'll share best practice ideas, challenges, and successes.
Totally interesting. I love the sharing of information too. So in addition to those 3 pillars, we're also going to touch on how this is a diverse profession that is open to all. So not only the diverse individuals, but also all the diverse opportunities, whether you want to be in emergency services or administration, HR, finance, public works. There's so many opportunities to get into local government. So we're going to talk about all those different ways that people can join this noble profession. And the last thing that we're going to feature throughout the podcast is ushering the next generation of leaders in. Right now, as many of us know, there is a talent crisis. Who is going to be leading local government in our world of tomorrow? And so we're going to actually be interviewing different organizations, local government organizations who have programs in place that are engaging our youth, whether through high school students or even through college, to try and give them a glimpse into what this profession is all about. So we're here to basically serve the membership at ILCMA, but also to reach the greater public, to help them understand the value and the service that is provided through local government. So that's kind of a snapshot on what we're aiming to accomplish here, our why. Thanks to Simon Sinek and his why, which is actually a good question to answer, right? Why are we doing this? So I think that helps to provide that answer a little bit. What do you think, Jim?
Definitely. And well, Melanie, since the winter conference, and we talk about educational opportunities and kind of why we're here, the ILCMA winter conference is coming up soon, February 7th through the 9th at the Marriott in Bloomington Normal. Now, today, this is our inaugural episode of Local Gov Stories from ILCMA. We'll be speaking with one of the conference keynotes, Alex Goryachev. He's a technology and innovative strategist who will be the Thursday lunch keynote speaker at the conference. First, we'll be talking with Paula Schumacher. She's the village administrator for the village of Bartlett, who's this year's winter conference chair. Paula will be giving us a breakdown of the value you will receive when you choose to attend the conference.
Yes. And for those of you that have gone to conference before, you know that there's so much to offer, like not in addition to the education and the amazing keynotes that we hear, which Paula will be talking more about in a little bit, but also the opportunity to engage with your peers and share stories and challenges and help people understand how you maybe got through a problem that they might be having either now or maybe sometime in the future. So that's one of those kind of intangible values that we're hoping to get across in addition to all the education and other enrichment. But first, before we get there, Jim and I wanted to share a little bit about us. Like, why are we here? I'll tell you, while my company serves local government, I'm not a local government employee. I have great respect for this profession. And one of the reasons is I have a personal connection to it. So I'm the child of immigrants. My father was born in Italy, my mom in Ireland, but my grandfather on my Italian side came over in the mid 1950s looking for work, and he left his family, my dad, my grandmother, and my 2 uncles. And he ended up getting hired by the village of Wilmette. He ended up coming to Wilmette. A bunch of his cousins, they were all packed in a little ranch house as immigrants trying to make a living. And he ended up getting hired. He worked in public works. And after 3.5 years of doing that, he was able to afford to bring my grandmother, my father, and my uncles over from Italy. And local government is how my family got started in this country. So I feel a very strong allegiance to it. And one funny little detail is that my grandfather's village manager happened to be Heidi Voorhees, which many of you know. And I remember meeting Heidi at my first conference and her looking at my name tag. You know, Santo Stefano is not a name you forget easy. And she said, "Are you related to Carmen?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's my grandpa." I did not know that Heidi was his manager. And so that was kind of one of those aha, like, wow, look at how the world just kind of connects and reconnects. And what she said to me was something I'll never forget. She said he was one of the hardest working employees that I ever had. And I know why, because local government gave him an opportunity to bring his family back together in this country and live their American dream. So I now serve local government and I feel a strong connection to it. And that's part of the reason that I'm here today. So, Jim, why don't you tell us why you're here today?
I love that story, Melanie. I started off in local government. I was the captain of our local police department explorer post while I was in high
Oh, I know those Explorer
school.
programs are great.
It was a great experience. I got to know a lot about the police department. And then in college, I spent my summers working for the Public Works in Libertyville, except for one summer, I was a finance and administration intern for Village Hall in Libertyville. So that
Wow.
was my introduction into local government. And from there, I became a news reporter. I was covering local government, mainly in the city of Chicago. I worked for Metro Networks in Chicago, which did news and traffic reporting for just about every radio station in the market. I was part of WBBM. I was on WLS for a number of years, WIND. And it was an opportunity to work not only with the city of Chicago, but all the suburban municipalities that encompass the greater Chicago area. And I got to see municipalities that did really well at communicating and municipalities that maybe not so good.
Mhm.
So from there, that inspired me to run for political office in my hometown. So I actually became a village trustee in the village of Libertyville. I served almost a full term, and then we moved into my grandparents' old house in Green Oaks. So when I moved out of Libertyville, I had to step off the board. But the experience of being a village board member, and I was hate to admit it, I was the weird outlier board member. I kept talking transparency
Oh,
and Facebook back before Facebook was really a thing. So I
and
was,
there was pushback back then. I remember when
yeah.
local government was not on Facebook.
So
Yeah.
I'll apologize to staff now. I was the weird one, but it was a great learning experience. And when I stepped off the board, I still felt this need to serve the public in local government. That
Hmm.
inspired me to go to work in local government. So I spent several years working for the city of North Chicago with
Hmm.
their communications team, running their communications team. And then that eventually led me here to Antioch. I'm the communications manager for the village of Antioch. And right now I'm working on my master's. Let's give a plug to NIU. So
Yes,
I'll have my,
absolutely. Go NIU. You
uh,
know, that is really, Jim, a really diverse background. Like starting out as a young person, like intern type, and then getting into being an elected official and now working in communications within an organization. So what a great perspective you bring. And a little side note, so Jim and I actually knew each other in a previous life because I worked in Chicago radio with him in the same place, same stations, WBBM, WLS, Shadow Metro. We were writers for Newswire service. So Jim and I go way back. And actually, part of the reason that we're here today, we both landed on the communications committee. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing Jim on a Zoom going, "Where did you come from?" And he's like, "Well, where did you come from?" And we decided to join forces and kind of leverage that broadcast and reporting background. We want to ask great questions. We want to tell the stories of people, really dig in and hear about everyone's different experiences in local government. So, just as kind of a side note, if you're listening and you know someone who has a really great story that helps to really tell the story of local government and the service it provides to communities, please email Dawn Peters. Everybody has her email on speed email, I'm sure, and let us know. We'd be really interested in talking with diverse people from all over Illinois.
Melanie,
So
why don't we get started with our first guest? I'm excited to introduce Paula Schumacher, the Winter Conference Chair, who's going to tell us all about the exciting speakers and sessions with a few new twists and offerings this year.
sounds great. Let's see it.
Paula, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to talk about the conference.
Yeah, so tell us about it. It's again it starts February 7th. What can we expect? What's the theme this year? What can you tell
Great.
us?
The theme this year is Shaping the Future Together. And the conference committee put together a program that's really action oriented and focused on giving participants the tools that they can take back to their community and start using right away. We've got the pre-conference session that starts on Wednesday that focuses on impactful community messaging. We're, really excited about getting that offered to kick off the conference.
Mhm.
One of the things that we and on the ILCMA board wanted to do was make it easier for people to attend the conference.
Mhm.
ILCMA does a great job of doing remote training, but it really is something different and a different kind of flavor when you attend a conference in person. I think you get some different kind of benefits when you're not behind your desk, you're having conversations in the hallway or over lunch, you're seeing old friends, you're meeting some new people. So all of those things are benefits to attending in person. And the ILCMA board wanted to encourage people, especially new attendees and members who maybe have not attended a conference in the last 5 years. So the first 20 registrations will be eligible for free registration if you fit those two categories. And there's also a travel stipend of $245 that'll be offered for new attendees and returning attendees. So those first 20 registrations. So when you see that email in your box from Dawn, don't, skip over it. You'll want to click it.
Yeah, actually, she sent the email already. I think registration is now open. So anyone who's listening, get up on that ilcma.org/conferences link and get registered and be one of those first 20 where you can get it all complimentary. That's really nice offer. So tell us a little bit about, you talked about the opening keynote. That's Ann Kritzmeyer, right?
Yes, from Lake Forest Management School.
Great. So, and I know that she's also a Village of Long Grove trustee as well, I believe.
She is.
Yeah.
And I think she's also on the legacy board. So she brings a lot of great perspectives. She's
Mhm.
actually doing a twofer for us. She's doing the opening pre-session, and then she's also doing a session on having difficult conversations, which we have all the time. And it's nice to kind of role play some of those, get some tips and useful phrases on how to handle those tricky situations. And Anne does a great job of helping us, figure out how we're going to attack those conversations so that they have positive outcomes.
That's hugely helpful just to kind of have those skill sets in your back pocket if you're encountering something that you maybe didn't even expect to happen. So that
Yes.
sounds great. And then moving on to, so we have an opening keynote. Her name is Holly. Will you tell us a little bit about her, a sneak peek and what she's presenting?
Holly Huffman is a real dynamic speaker. We're excited to have her kick off the conference. She will talk to us about, putting leadership principles into action and connecting with those that you lead. We can talk about a lot of platitudes or a lot of, catchy little acronyms about leadership, but how do you actually put that into use? How do you work it into your leadership style? And how do you make it impactful in your organization and on a personal level with those that you supervise or your community as a whole? So Holly has a really kind of energizing session for us. I'm really looking forward to her presentation.
And then there is the lunch keynote, which actually we'll be interviewing next in the next segment, named Alex Goryachev. But let's give a little preview on what we're going to learn later about Alex.
This has been a topic that we've seen really heat up. It's AI and the use of artificial intelligence in our municipalities. And so we wanted to make it the luncheon topic, since so many communities are facing what to do about it, how to avoid, the pitfalls that are unique to the municipal environment with this kind of technology. So we're just delighted to have him be able to talk to a broader audience than what would normally be at a breakout session. Since we're talking about breakout sessions, a number of the breakout sessions are really looking at practical aspects of larger concepts. So we have the practical aspects of DEI implementation. We have putting your strategic plan into action. We've got how do you use a tax increment financing district? These are big, big topics, but they need to be broken down into really kind of actionable pieces. And that's what those sessions will do. They really kind of take these big goals and find functional and actionable steps that people can take right when they get back, from the conference and start chipping away at these huge goals.
One of the things, first of all, last year was my first ILCMA winter conference that I had been able to attend, and I loved it. The sessions, like we've been talking about, are very educational, and quite frankly, as a government geek, all of them are fun. But the social aspect of the conference, like you touched on as well, being there in person and meeting people literally from all over the state. I have people that I consider friends now from O'Fallon and Champaign and further south in southern Illinois, and I'm up in Antioch. I'm almost to Canada, so it's great to have that reach of people from across the state.
There are several receptions. There's new member receptions. There's downstate receptions to kind of reconnect with friends in the profession, and also welcoming new folks into the conference. We've got the run that we traditionally have, the 5K. I sleep through that. I'm going to be honest. I don't do it, but
Me too.
there's a diehards that do it, and they have a great time. And we've got a nice course set out for them. And of course, we've got Medici, the restaurant nearby. We're taking over that venue for Thursday night. We've got a nice dinner planned. IAMA is offering up the Table Game Olympics, so that will be lots of fun, a variety of things that will challenge your brain and your dexterity. I'm sure that'll be a riot. And then we have a comedy show at the Normal Theater that we'll be offering as well. So lots of opportunities for entertainment at the conference and those social aspects, which really are an important part of that professional development too.
Absolutely. There's a lot of camaraderie. I've been a member for several years, and I love the educational sessions and the keynotes, but social is just the whole different angle of just being able to just like get down to just people level with people and just like have regular conversations. So it's so nice. And Medici's awesome. We've been there before. It's such a great venue. And then add some comedy in. And so then after we all stay up late that night having lots of fun, we have a nice opening speaker named Brad Cole, who is, everybody knows who's seen him, is hilarious. So he's a good way to wake up on Friday morning.
That's great.
Brad normally talks about legislative updates and
So we have Breakfast with Brad. Brad is the director of IML, and he gives really great insight to what's happening in Springfield, legislation that will be coming on the horizon that might be a boon for communities or a nightmare for communities, right? So Brad does a great job of giving us the inside baseball on what's happening with the legislator in Springfield. So that's worth getting up for. And then, we have our Friday afternoon sessions, later morning sessions. One of the new ones we have this year is a collaboration lab. And I'm really looking forward to that again are issues that are facing all communities and just really workshopping that to find some practical solutions. So I'm really looking forward to the interaction that session will provide. And then, of course, we always have um, our Friday keynote, and that will be Desmond Lomax, who will really talk about the mental health issues facing, leadership and what the resilience that people need in facing a lot of issues, but in a positive way, so that we leave our conference, feeling recharged and ready to take on the world. So looking forward to what he has to say. He has a very interesting personal story to provide, and he's able to extrapolate from his own experiences the way to build our own personal resiliency.
Now, Paula, you mentioned the collaboration lab workshop. That sounds very interesting. Could you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah, so the ILCMA Professional Development Committee was tasked with putting together a session, and this is what they brainstormed. And it really allows for the sharing of solutions that maybe I've addressed an issue in Bartlett that you're dealing with in Antioch. And so, you and I are going to talk about, how we problem solved it, how that fit in our community. And these are going to be like larger issues that are facing the profession. Maybe it's recruitment, maybe it's retention, maybe it's I've got a crazy council member and how do I survive him, or I've got elections are looming, and how do you onboard your new council member. So I think a lot of those issues that face every village hall will get some robust discussion. I'm really looking forward to it. We stole the AI topic away from them, and so they came back with Collaboration Lab, and I'm really excited about this kind of new offering. I think one of the awesome parts of our profession is that we are not afraid to share our good ideas, and we have lots of opportunities to do that. We have the Aspiring Leaders Roundtable, the Q&A to help people coming up in the profession. And then we also have the panel discussion with our senior advisors, where we maybe tackle some of the more veteran member questions and issues. So, the level of support that we have in our profession, I think, is very unique. Mm-hmm. And we really try and facilitate those discussions, both, in a formal setting with the panels and the roundtables, but also the conference provides an opportunity for those one-on-one questions. I've often pulled a senior advisor aside and say, hey, can I give you a call next week? Or I have this happening in my town. Can we grab some coffee before the session? So, we have the opportunity to tap into a lot of experience, and it's a blessing of both the conference and our profession.
And you make a good point too about individuals who are kind of coming up in the profession, really getting those younger people who want to maybe move up to a management or department head position someday around those leaders and being involved in those conversations. And then back to the Collaboration Lab, which I love. We talked about it earlier, but just being able to not only share the successes, but also challenges. Like this is what I had to deal with, and it was unbelievably challenging. And this is how we solved it. So that's hugely valuable. I'm excited for
or at
it.
least just knowing you're not the only one. I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one with a crazy council member. It's not just me. Those are opportunity to meet some people who are entering the profession. It always recharges my batteries, and you kind of remember, oh yeah, that is why I wanted to get into public administration. You get that enthusiasm does rub off, right?
Absolutely. And then, I'm actually on the summer conference committee right now. So I wanted to thank you because it's not a small job to be planning a conference. There's a lot of things to read through and decide what angle you want to go. And the theme for it and what you've described today sounds really exciting. And everyone out there, you're encouraged to get registered. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Paula. It's been great to talk with you. And I know everyone's going to be very excited about conference. And thanks again for being the leader as the chair.
Well, thanks so much for the opportunity. And I've had a wonderful committee to work with. And of course, Dawn keeping us all on track. And,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see you all in normal.
So I feel like all of that sounds very exciting. The breakout groups, the keynotes, the social opportunities back to Medici, which many of us really, really love. Hopefully it's warmer than it usually is because it's kind of like an ice cube for winter conference normally. Of course it is winter. But I'm excited for conference. So especially since what Paula said about learning things that you can actually take back home and start implementing right away. I think that's what all of us want, to be able to take the value and utilize it almost immediately.
Well, Melanie, our next guest will be Alex Goryachev, whose presentation, Unlocking the Potential of AI, How Local Governments Can Lead the Way. Alex is the lunch keynote speaker on Thursday during the conference. After you hear what he has to share with you, you're not going to want to miss this and learn about this new frontier in communications.
Expertise is primarily in kind of riding every wave of the technology revolution, all the way from e-commerce 20 years ago to AI right now. And for the last 3 years, I've been massively focused on AI, machine learning in the beginning, and then AI. As in all of my experience, I firmly believe that this is a bigger transformation than the internet and cloud combined. It's probably, I look at my kid who is 9, and I think this is probably the biggest transformation of his life in terms of the technology, and it's going to impact everything from the way he lives and plays and how he goes to school and studies and works. So this is pretty incredible.
So I know that, your presentation about local government leading the way. So it feels a little bit counterintuitive that local government would get into AI because it's about serving the people serving the people. But tell us a little bit about how that translates into the local government world.
Well, I think from any organizational perspective, when we think about AI, the one thing that we must face the reality that it's the most adopted consumer application. Just look at ChatGPT alone, which is just a segment of AI tools. It's the most adopted technology application or consumer application in the history of the world. It basically took a ChatGPT 5 days to get the same number of users that it took Netflix. We all love Netflix, 7 years. I mean, right now we're up to 100 million users, and this statistic is pretty incredible. So by the time that we are meeting in February, that number is probably going to double. And when we think about that number doubling, this means that consumers are used to using AI for their engagement perspective, gathering data, optimizing their life and services. And I think the governments would have to respond to that and lead the way and provide those services internally and externally.
Really interesting how quickly the landscape in AI changes. Now, you had mentioned 100, at least as of this conversation, 100 million users on ChatGPT. I'd imagine there's a lot of local government users using ChatGPT now or AI. And the future of AI, what does that look like for local government? What are some real life examples? Could you break that down for us?
Well, first of all, from a government perspective, I think we've talked about smart cities for many, many years, and it's kind of a dream that almost never got realized because of the complexity of the technology. AI really makes those smart city dreams real. So when we look at cities across the world implementing AI, anything from smart traffic management to public safety to energy efficiency, basically running the business of the city becomes much more accessible to smaller sized municipalities and much more cost efficient as far as public services, public works, just running the operations faster, cheaper, more efficient, and more responsive. I think that's number one. And I think number two is the cities are starting to experiment with generative AI, the conversational AI, and providing citizen services. So as a consumers and citizens, it's far easier for us to go online and type a question and get an answer from a city department versus calling multiple phone numbers and chasing data. And I think by sometime by February, consumers will start expecting that because these features are being rolled out across different business platforms.
So you're talking about kind of centralizing information almost. So the government organization can kind of put it all in one place, and then a resident can make a request and information is just automatically spit out at them, for lack of a better way to put it.
Absolutely, on a website and plainly asking a question on in plain English and getting an answer. Anything from permits to recycling to more complex to public safety statistics and classes. One place, easy to access. That's where we're going, and I feel that's something that we need to be prepared for as consumers are expecting it.
And that leads to more efficiencies, right? If you have a way where people can get their quick answers as opposed to calling and having someone answer the phone, having to take the time to go through these, that what can be simple answers to simple questions, that contributes to efficiency. Because I know you had mentioned that's another angle that AI can help with.
Absolutely. It's faster to market with data and efficiency. And I think the beauty of it, it's breaking silos within the organization, within the municipality, because as we start sharing data, it not only benefits the citizens, but it benefits us as people that are working inside organizations. And that's pretty impressive.
And then was there any other angles that it applies to local government? We got citizen services and operational efficiency. And then there was another one that you and I discussed earlier when we met.
I think it's really about preparing for the future. And when we think about the tax base, when we think about the businesses that we want to attract, I really believe that as 20 years ago, every company was destined to become a digital company. Today, I firmly believe that every company is destined to become an AI company. And frankly speaking, if it wouldn't become an AI company, it probably would not exist. So making sure that the cities attract businesses and stimulate that AI development from an economic development perspective, attract the right type of startups, provide learning opportunities for citizens, and frankly, and employees as well, that will create the talent pool and the economic foundation for the future, as the future economy is becoming more and more AI driven.
How can we put AI into action?
Thank you. That's a great question. I appreciate the word action, because I feel that the cost of inaction is tremendous. Now, so it's essential that the governments take action. We can think about different levels of that. The one thing that I would begin is, first of all, as leaders, as employees, as citizens, as human beings, I encourage us to start experimenting with AI just for our personal purposes. Let's try to plan a vacation or do some research and just see how it feels. I think that's on the personal level. The second one is understanding the extent to which AI is already being used within the organization, because many organizations don't have policies, but employees here and there are already using AI, and it's essential to take a snapshot of that adoption. And then going forward, coming up with that policy with these guardrails of where it should or should not be used, and then developing skills so that we can actually find that appropriate AI project and execute it in a small and measurable milestones in a way that it benefits both government and the citizens.
Alex, you will be a keynote speaker at the ILCMA Winter Conference coming up in February at the Bloomington Normal Marriott. You could register online right now, ilcma.org. Alex, I know you have a website and also a book available for sale on your website. Could you plug that real quick?
Yes. So the book that I wrote is about innovation in large organizations and how they adopt technology. So I think AI is a perfect example. My website is alexgorchev.com. I am really excited to talk about how AI can be implemented and facilitate that conversation, because there's a lot of great ideas, and there are a lot of great wins that the organizations and the governments are already doing. And I think the more that we talk about AI, the more we learn from each other and the more we win together.
So there you have it, folks. Now you've heard from Paula giving you the big overview of conference, and then our AI expert, Alex, giving us a glimpse into what he believes all local government organizations will need to get involved with in the near future. So more yet to come on that, but all sounds very exciting.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Melanie. This was fun.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for future episodes. Make sure, please, I know every podcast video on YouTube says this, please follow and subscribe to the ILCMA YouTube channel and sign up for our audio version of the podcast at ilcma.org/localgovstories. I'm Jim Moran
And I'm Melanie Santos-Stefano.
for the ILCMA Local Gov Stories podcast. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.